my specialities within the study of religion has to do with the study of Mormonism and in Mormon studies. And with this, I've been looking at the Senate hearings that had to do with Reed Smoot, the senator from Utah who was a Mormon, but also an apostle or part of the leading hierarchy of the church, who then gets elected to the Senate in 1903. And so this outrages a Protestant country, and this Protestant country are saying, if we put this Mormon into the Senate, then we will collapse by way of our fealty to the American family. In other words, these Victorian values of sexuality and gender are going to be destroyed. And so this is because Mormons were seen as still living polygamy. Even though they promised to have ended it, there's still this idea that Mormons are dishonest and that Mormons are hiding something from us. And so in reality, they're very much secretly still an illegal branch of religion. And so so with this, they have these hearings that go on for like 3 years, from 1903 to 1907. And one thing that's important to note here is the question was not just whether polygamy is still happening in Mormonism, but whether Mormonism is even American to begin with. And so it's really a question of what America means. So my studies is not just looking at this specific group, this specific religion in a specific period of time. We're very much like the Scopes trial. It has larger implications for what we mean by law, what we mean by belonging or religious belonging in America. And at this time, it was not sure that religious freedom or pluralism was even a good thing when it came to introducing Mormons to this legislative body for the entire country. Because how can these illegal people make laws for everybody? And so anyways, to make matters short, it goes on where we have all these revelations that, yeah, indeed, Mormons are still practicing polygamy. They certainly don't know the extent they're still practicing it, but at the same time, they do realize that things are happening in Utah that are pretty uncomfortable. So what's significant is not just do we see an America that's challenging and questioning where religion fits and how it should be defined, but we're also seeing how Mormonism itself is defining itself as American. And so what we see happen through the Reed Smoot hearings for these 3 years is Mormonism redefining itself in real time. We can watch it change. We can see it go from an apologetic religion when it comes to polygamy to, at the end, denouncing polygamy as something worthy of excommunication. And so with this, Mormonism is also redefining itself along the lines of a Protestant America. And we see something happening that is bigger than Mormonism here. For example, I think one thing that can help make sense of this is by seeing how America was very much defining where the Sabbath fit within the country at large. Should all Americans keep the Sabbath holy? Should stores all be closed? Should fairs be closed on the Sabbath so that people can then be reverent toward God? In fact, we would see groups emerge and groups organized, religious groups saying that, or these Sabbatarian groups saying, religion needs to be enforced on the country at large, because if we don't, are we not a Christian nation? But at the same time, we see the emergence in the 1870s and 1880s of these more secular groups who are more focused on ethical religion. In other words, we should be then ethical toward each other. We should be good. We should be non-oppressive, but we don't need to be Christian to be good. And so they went and they tried to, for example, these Protestant religious groups tried to get laws passed for Sabbath observance, whereas these more secular groups were saying we should then have the amendment to the Constitution changed that can guarantee a secular country. So both of these groups were arguing whether America should be, whether the Constitution should be changed to include religion or whether it should be included to include no religion. And so it finally came down to neither side was appeased. But when Reed Smoot came to fore, these old groups then kind of collected themselves and they joined this fray. For example, religious groups, the same people trying to enforce the Sabbath day were now trying to enforce keeping Mormonism out of the congressional seats. Long story short, Reed Smoot was allowed to retain a seat, but this came at a cost in a lot of ways for what it means by religious pluralism in America. What I'm kind of showing is that religious pluralism did not mean this liberal embrace of just whatever type of religion. What it meant was this embrace of a very specific liberal Protestant type of religion. So the more that Reed Smoot was able to recolor Mormonism as a Protestant-esque religion, the more they were able to embrace him as a legitimate American, a legitimate senator in the United States. And so by the beginning, from 1904 of the hearings to 1907, Mormonism then shifts dramatically. But at the same time, through this rearticulation of whether Reed Smoot belongs here, they're now also battling over whether America is a conservative Christian versus a more liberal Christian that's more pluralistic in view. So the nation then is undergoing dramatic changes, but at the same time, these changes and secularism are not without their own liberal Protestant type of definitions. And so I think with this larger study, we kind of see how through religious groups where they are dynamic and changing, but at the same time, so is the country. And it's important not to see a country as this type of universal, timeless entity that doesn't change. But in a lot of ways, religious groups are responding to the larger changes of the country itself. And so it's really a study of American politics and also of how religion plays a role of American politics and in defining what a country means on a broader scale.